Hello, my name's Gary Ford, Managing Director of Tiger Hobbies Limited. Part 4, the final part of our Battle for the Scheldt Estuary video, we'll look at the aftermath of this battle and the true losses to the Allies for their indecision early in September 1944. The battle, as we stated already, cost some 40,000 casualties, half the Germans, half the Allies, and some 41,000 German prisoners of war. Canadians suffered particularly bad. The lack of infantry caused them great problems. In fact, this lack of infantry goes back almost to the beginning of the war, when the Allies decided that the war, especially the British and Commonwealth, this will be a war of machines and not a war of flesh. Because during the First World War, we'd lost some 800,000 soldiers in the First World War and many, many more wounded. So we didn't want to go through this horrendous loss again. We decided it was better to lose 5 men in a tank than 50 infantry on the ground. Better to lose 7 men in a bomber than 100 infantry on the ground. The battle for the Scheldt Estuary was described by one historian as unnecessary and difficult. And majority of that blame has got to go for Montgomery. He did, in the end, convince Eisenhower to go for Arnhem. What was the true cost to the Allies? Well, as far as logistics concerned, the Germans knew from the very early part of this battle, every single day they prevented the port of Antwerp becoming operational. That was less stores the Allies would have for the invasion of Germany. The loss to the Allies of stores and supply, due to the fact they didn't get Antwerp fully operational as soon as they could, was approximately 2.5 million tons. Also, the American supply system, called the Red Ball Express, that was literally running 700-mile round trips from Cherbourg and Normandy up to the American lines, would have to go on until mid-December 1944, until the port became fully operational. Admiral Ramsay was absolutely correct. Once the port of Antwerp became fully operational, it supplied all of the Allied armies. But the Germans were none too happy. They weren't happy they lost the port in the first place. They were not happy the fact they should have blown this port to smithereens and not given the Allies the prize of Antwerp. So they decided to hit Antwerp back with a rain of V2 attacks. In fact, Antwerp had more V2s dropped on it than London. In one horrendous incident in a cinema, while Allied soldiers and civilians were watching the old Robin Hood film with Errol Flynn, one of these V2s whacked into behind the screen, causing a massive shockwave. And when the rescuers finally got into the cinema, they found hundreds of people literally in their seats as if they're watching the movie, but dead in a horrendous scene. I think something like 400 were killed in this particular attack, making it one of the most deadly V2 attacks of the war. With victory in the Battle of the Scheldt Estuary and the bringing of Antwerp fully operational, the German V2 attacks, it brings us on to what will be our next instalment in Tiger Hobbies D-Day to VJ Day series. The Germans, under the gaze of the Allies during late 1944, managed to gather an absolute massive force, thousands of tanks and infantry, for a last gamble in the West. We are showing a clip of King Tiger assault guns operating in the winter of '44. This brings us on to the next episode in Tiger Hobbies series D-Day to VJ Day. This is Operation Watch on the Rhine, better known to us all as the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last great gamble in the West. You'll have noticed while we've been filming this video about the Battle of the Scheldt Estuary, to our right, a selection of scale models that can be purchased from Tiger Hobbies. Now, these can be purchased by going to our website www.tigerhobbies.co.uk. Look for the tag word Overlord. We've continued using the word Overlord as many of the vehicles are very similar to what used in D-Day. I'd like to introduce though one of the models that we are very proud of. And this is the Ram Kangaroo by our Gecko suppliers. Now the Ram Kangaroo is quite unusual. It was developed from a tank that was developed from the earlier Lee or Grant tank, which it was almost a stopgap tank. It at least had a 75mm gun to engage the Germans, but it was in a sponsor down on the right. The Canadians thought they could improve this by doing a cast hull over the M3 Lee chassis and by putting a turret with a 360-degree turn, including a 6-pounder anti-tank gun. Just as they're about to go in production with this, the Americans developed the M4 Sherman, which made this vehicle pointless. And in fact, the Canadians produced their own version of the Sherman called the M4 Grizzly. What to do with all these Ram chassis? What they decided to do was remove the turret, clean up the inside to make sure it's safe for infantry to stand, and use it as the first fully tracked APC to keep up with the tanks. And it was used throughout the Normandy campaign towards the end of the war. In fact, the British were impressed as well. The British 79th Army Division also took some of these Ram Kangaroos. Again, we've got a wonderful selection of models to be able to buy. And again, www.tigerhobbies.co.uk, and look for the tag word Overlord.